Welcome to Spill Your Sauce, the music show by producers for producers. We are on episode 6. Today we have a very special guest. And we're going to deep dive into their some of their past popular songs, look at how they process certain things, and how they go about all their production. Today on this episode we have a very special guest. We have Anthoine Walters. For the people in the room, I want to give a little round of applause. Anthoine is a multi-platinum, 2-time Grammy nominated Canadian producer from Toronto. He's best known for his work with Drake, Post Malone, J. Cole, Roddy Ricch, and many others. But without further ado, I'll let him introduce himself. Anthoine, how's it going?
Good up there. How are you?
Chilling. But you want to give yourself a little introduction, whatever you think people should know about yourself to start?
I guess best way to put it, I'm an art dealer, someone who's constantly discovering themselves. I know that's kind of something that we talked about off air as well. Anthoine is an educator. One thing that I love for people to know is that I'm also a director of a youth program in Toronto for marginalized youth in low-income homes. Anthoine is art.
Hell yeah.
I'm as authentic as they come.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. And for the little bit I've got to know you off camera, you definitely show that perspective a lot, and it shows you're very particular about the way you speak and how you go about things, and that's awesome. So yeah, let's get into it. How'd you get started into music production? Where did the whole Anthoine Walters journey begin?
Man, realistically, the journey began when I was really young. In church, my dad played the keys in church.
Okay.
I was forcefully put into the kids' church choir. So that's kind of where I get my singing background from. Even in terms of learning to play the keys, that would come from pops. As I got older, I actually started a little group with a good friend Kenny of mine and Alvin.
Okay.
And it was called Blackie Chant Entertainment. Don't ask. There are no public songs that are out there. And I was a singer in the group. They were the two rappers, but we never really got super serious about things. From there, at the time I was maybe like 16, 17, got into some acting, landed some small roles, did some background stuff. Was really dope, but I never really took any of it super serious.
Okay.
When I got to university, I was studying human resource management, and I was working a part-time job in hospitals.
Okay.
And while I was in hospitals, I used to sit patients. At this time, my dream of doing acting and singing was pretty much out the door. So while I was in hospitals, I was watching over this one patient. He had Alzheimer's and dementia. His name was Tim.
Yep.
And it's funny because I was really young working in the hospitals. Tim's mom was in there as well.
Okay.
She was maybe 90-something. Her name was Anne.
Okay.
And anytime I would watch over Tim, she would wheelchair herself into the room and tell me what to do. She'd be like, Anthoine, make sure his blanket is like this. Yeah. Make sure his pillow is like this. But I understood it's because she just wanted to make sure that her son was well kept.
Yeah.
So even though it added a lot more extra work on me,
Yeah.
I could understand why she was doing it.
Okay.
So one time I'm taking care of Tim, and he's asleep on his bed. Anne is kind of dozing off in her wheelchair, and I was watching TV and Wheel of Fortune came on. At the end of Wheel of Fortune, there was a really cool, jingle at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I remember humming the jingle under my breath, but in like a different kind of melody. At that point, Anne actually woke up and she's like, you have a really beautiful hum, son.
Oh.
I'm like, thanks, Anne. She's like, back in war times, my husband was part of like the choir. I'm like, oh, that's like really dope. I was part of a children's choir when I was younger.
Yeah.
And she's like, my grandson, he's actually a really big producer. That Canadian guy used to be up at the house all the time. And I'm like, oh, what Canadian guy? She's like, do you know that guy Rake? And I'm like, wait,
No.
what? I'm like, Anne. I'm like, do you mean Drake? She's like, that's it. That's when I Googled the last name. And that's when I saw like Adam Feeney, a.k.a. Frank Dukes. So that's where the beginning of like things started to take a turn.
That's crazy. Like you were telling me before, you were telling me this is gonna be a cool story. That's really interesting. So damn. So okay. So you're working at the hospital. You're doing your thing. You're not really doing music. You said at this time you're like kind of just focusing on life stuff. You meet. So I guess at the time this is Frank Duke's
uncle and grandma.
So you meet Frank Duke's uncle and grandma, and what? So now what? Like you changing everything you're doing, or
no? So the time's still in the hospital.
Okay.
I remember the grandma basically tells her other son about me, which would be Frank Dukes' dad, Terry. Okay, so now I call him Uncle T, Uncle Terry. I know he's watching, so shout out Uncle T. Oh, yeah. But I I remember one day Terry comes in. He's like, hey, man, I love what you've been doing for, you know, my mother and for my brother. I'd love for you to, like, meet my son one day. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't expect anything of it. At the time, I started doing my research to see what Frank Dukes has been doing. I'm like, oh, this is, like, really dope. One day, pretty much, Frank came into the hospital, met me. He asked me if I had any songs out. And remember, I told you I'd been part of a group when I was younger. I had one solo song that I'd done, and I knew it was crap. But it was like, this is the only work I could show if you really wanted to hear it. Sent him the song. I didn't hear from him for like a year. And I remember after that year, and during that year, I'd gotten really close with his dad. He lived really close to me. At times he needed some landscaping done. I helped him with landscaping. I used to do that as like a summer job. Pay me cash on the side, stuff like that, just to kind of help me out while I was in school, which is super humbling of him.
For sure.
But so after that year goes by, I get an email from Frank. He's like, yo, the song is trashed. But he's like, the vocals are dope. And at that time, he explained to me how he chops up vocals, manipulates sound, it kind of goes from there. He's like, yeah, I'd love for you to come over to the house one day. And again, that was all via email. And in my head, I'm like, yo, who's using email at this time? You know? Fast forward another year, I was still in the hospital working, taking care of Tim. Tim, unfortunately, had passed away. Man, and that was my guy.
R.I.P.
But, you know, Tim passed away, and at the wedding reception, saw Frank. We didn't really have a conversation too much about music.
But you guys have already sent emailed at this point.
Exactly. We've already sent those past emails. But at this time, I'd become really close with his dad. So his dad was literally like my biggest advocate and still is. We still connect maybe like twice a month.
I saw you, the way you guys talk. You guys definitely have a good relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, unfortunately, after the passing of Tim, the reception, was talking to Frank, things were just kind of left at that. No music was sort of involved during that time. The hospital, or really was a nursing home of where I was taking care of Tim, was extremely close to my house, walking distance, maybe like 5-10 minutes. So even though I wasn't with Tim anymore, remember, the grandma's still in there. I felt guilty if I didn't at least once a week go in and check it, because I was like her last friend during the whole
100%
situation. So it's like I still check in on her one time a week. And it's pretty cute. I know every time she would like see me leave, she would wheelchair herself out of the room. And she'd always be like, Anthoine, and I'd turn around like down the hall, and she'd be like, watch the roads, watch the roads.
Yes.
And I can remember, again, fast forward like another couple of years, unfortunately, she passed as well. At that time, during that reception, Frank had told me, you know, he's pretty much going to end up moving to California. I should come by the house, this, that, the third. And I was like, yeah, I would definitely love to come by the house. So
you're still, at this point, sorry, just make sure you're still doing the bare minimum of music.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. If that.
Okay.
Again, I was still in school studying. Yeah. School was almost wrapping up.
Cool.
So Frank invites me over to the house. I go over to his house. And it was dope. He allowed me to bring like a few of my boys down there too, which was super cool. Showed me some of the awards that he had gotten. Then we got right into music. He started playing the piano. He's like, yo, I want you to just like sing. Doesn't have to be real words. Whatever comes to your head, just sing. I started to sing. He's like, oh, you got like a cool tone. He's like, I'm gonna play something else. Same idea, just continue to sing. Same thing, continue to sing. He's like, yo, he's like, I like this. He's like, yo, you know what? Let's like get in the booth. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, he's actually enjoying what he hears. So we get in the booth, similar to he would play beats and samples. He'd be like, yo, I just want you to sing. Same idea. It doesn't have to be real words. Just have at it. Boom. Started to record. I remember at that time I was not driving, so a friend had actually brought me to his house. And my friend like knocks on the booth door and is like, yo, Anthoine, I gotta go because like we gotta go pick up my little sister from school. And I was like, yo, what? Like, why couldn't you tell me this beforehand? Right? This is when I knew Frank was really interested, because he was like, yo, don't worry about it. You guys can go. Like, I'll drive Anthoine home like after we're all done. So my boys left. Me and Frank had you know, stayed recording. After that day, I haven't heard from Frank for like years.
Come on.
I finished school. I'm working at a bank, and one day I get a call while I'm at the bank, and this is maybe like a 5-year turnaround.
5 years after that time?
Like maybe 4 or 5 years. So,
and did you start, sorry, after that session, are you like, okay, maybe I should start looking into music, or still nothing with music?
Still nothing.
Crazy.
I was listening more to music, a lot of work from Frank. I was still extremely close with his dad. His dad would always call me. I can't forget that, because his dad would always call me like, Anthoine, what are you up to? Like, don't be procrastinating. You know, if you want to get into music, you got to get into it. He's like, have you talked to my son? I'd be like, no, like, let Frank do, like, his thing. You know, and during that time, you know, Frank was going on a crazy run in terms of what he was landing. And I remember I get a phone call while I'm at the bank, and this is now in 2018. I get a phone call, and it's Frank. I pick it up, and he's like, yo, bro, like, do you remember that stuff we recorded, like, a few years back? Like, some of it's being used. I need you to, like, sign some paperwork. I'm like, all right, cool. for me, I didn't expect any money out of it. I didn't expect to be in the music landscape and stuff. But I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'll sign it. These guys are like family to me at this point. I'm cool with whatever happens. So I sign it. A week later, it turns out to be Post Malone's Wow. Crazy.
Crazy.
It fell on top of the world. I did, but I didn't actually. Because to be honest, when that came out, the same thing that I said earlier, it's like, in my mind, I always knew there's no way I'm like going to be stuck at a desk for like, the rest of my life. So that song comes out, song goes crazy. People are hitting me up, hey, do you do vocal samples? At the time, I didn't know what a vocal sample was.
Yeah.
I hit up Frank. I'm like, yo, what's a vocal sample? He explains it. He's like, bro, even your raw voice is super dope. You can even send voice notes to people. They'll love it.
Damn.
So that December 2018, that's when WoW came out. By March the next year, Frank had given me a call. That's when he was saying, you know, pretty much, what do you say we put pen to paper and we sign a deal? And that's pretty much how I ended up getting signed to Frank Dukes.
Crazy story. So you signed to Frank. Are you like, you know, like when you're signing that deal, are you thinking like, you know, Frank's my boy. I'm putting my trust behind him. Like whatever he kind of guides me to do, I'm a do. Or are you trying to like, when you're signing that, are you like still, like you're obviously still learning, so you kind of are trusting him like when you're signing it that he's gonna guide you in the right way with what you're signing?
Yeah, pretty much. I know during that period after I signed, he was going through a lot when it came to his team.
Okay.
And for him, at this point now, he was out in LA. And the first person he introed me to was Chris.
Okay.
So Chris, you know Chris, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of people know Chris. Shout out Chris. He introed me to Chris. So I told Chris what I had done on WoW. Chris was literally the first person to start educating me in terms of like what I should do.
Okay.
At the time, Chris was using the DAW, Ableton. Frank was on Ableton. So for me, it made sense that that would be the DAW of choice that I use. So if I have any questions, these are two people that I can lean on.
Yeah.
And from there, I can remember that first conversation that I had with Chris was more so about like sound manipulation or stuff that I can do to make my voice seem interesting.
Yeah.
Remember, Chris was like, hey man, you might as well buy like a tape player.
Yeah.
You record through a tape player. Your voice is really dope. He was showing me small things on the DAW that I was able to do.
Fire.
And that's pretty much what began my learning journey.
Yeah.
After Chris, the next person that I got in touch with was this guy named Ghost.
Okay.
Ghost 416, I think is his Instagram.
Okay.
And Ghost was like, yo, we should set up like a session in Toronto. So he brought me to this place called like the Cube.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go to
Exactly. Go to spot. So, and this is when like everything started to even change. So I had a little bit of education from Chris. Now I'm going to apply that education into stuff that I do in like my first session with Ghost. Okay. So I get to that session. You know who's on the couch? Waves. This is literally shout out Waves. I met Waves. Okay, so shout out to Waves. This is literally how I met Waves. So, but on top of all of that, when I get to the session, so Ghost is there, Waves is there. I think Ely was there at the time, and even this other guy named Craney who was running the spot.
Okay.
It turned out that with Craney, who was running the spot, he actually was good friends with one of my boys that lived in my area. And that boy of mine had been trying to put me on to knowing Craney.
Oh,
to
wow.
use his space. So right away, we were able to kind of hash that out. So fast forward after that session with Ghost happened, me and Waves, similar age, we were able to connect right away.
Yeah.
Craney's like, hey, certain times I'm not really using my studio. I don't even mind if you want to take up some of the studio time. And he was allowing me to do it for free.
Damn.
So it's like I started running sessions of my own where I'd have Waves pull up.
Hell yeah.
Waves introduced me to Eli.
Hell yeah.
Eli pulled up. Eli got me into a really dope Loop Group collective on Instagram.
Fire.
And that's where things started to change. From that Loop collective chat, people who didn't even have cuts at the time were in that chat. Like Nami was in there, Des Wright was in there, Beza was in there. And, you know, literally, I guess that's what kind of started the inception of like how I began to work. These were all people that were looking for vocals.
Yeah.
I was a vocalist. I didn't know a lot. I knew what I could and couldn't do. And I was able to keep it within a tight-knit community, and that's where I was able to grow and
crazy
learn.
But yeah, I think we're good to go to the next segment. So yeah, we're gonna open up some stuff. We're gonna show your process. Okay, let me put on my headphones here. Let's hear if we can see chat. We're gonna play something. Can you guys throw some W's in the chat if you guys can hear this?
Mm-hmm. They can hear.
crazy. Those perks are like, the perks in this band are crazy. I'll tell.
I love the ending.
Oh, this is fire. Damn.
Summer days when I am waiting for your arms to fall. When I can hold you back and tell you that I love you. Are we meant to be? Are we meant to be? I will wait for you.
Yeah, that one's fire. Do you want to speak on that for a second?
Yeah. So again, another really favorite collaborator of mine. This is one that I got linked to through my management, Dylan.
Okay.
A guy named Ellie Rizek. He's done like some Bella Poor stuff. Super dope, humble guy, multi-instrumentalist. And working with him is super easy. I'll pull up to his crib when I'm in LA. You know, sometimes I could just sit on a rug, have the mic. I'm gonna be like, yo, this is dope. We should like add this. I'll throw a few of my ideas in there, and then I'll be like, yo, let's try saucing it like this. This is stuff that I like doing.
Yeah.
And there we just experiment.
Sick.
I have a lot with him that need placements, but not all of them have I sent out just yet. But I love working with him. I'm going to continue to work with him.
Hell yeah.
And again, it's just one of those guys that like we mesh extremely well. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So for this next segment, if you're new, if you haven't seen what we got going on, this next segment, the whole show is sponsored by Waves. Shout out waves.com. So for this next segment, we're going to go on Waves. We're going to check out what they got on there.
Okay. These all have vocals. It kind of reminds me of some Summer Walker, like.
I need you like a why you making me like.
Yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this one.
Yes.
It's alright.
Summertime, I won't fight, take my time. Like I needed you when I take your time. Will you right? I needed you like no like no like no need you now. Need you, need you, need you, need you, need you, need you.
Alright.
Take your time, feel your way.
Oh, this is hard.
Over and back, need something like no
straight like, yo, what's that? Is that, you know what I mean? He needs to chop it vocal, bro. You give the perfect vocal, no one needs to chop nothing. Crazy. My playlist takes so long to load.
Three minutes 50 seconds.
What?
350.
It's all it's what?
So I'm saying, get that takedown.
Yeah, there's two of us, so it should be like double the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, shut this guy's church.
Look, really sync them in the background too. The new ones.
The new one's right?
Yeah. How's everyone doing on this Sunday? I feel like it's one of those. This is like one of those R&B songs where you just have to pop it back.
Talk to them.
Hey, like, what's good, everyone? I hope you guys are good on this Sunday. All right.
No, it's done.
Yeah, it's a fire.
Done.
Hell yeah. $100 for the best flip?
Under Monopoly though.
Damn.
Under Monopoly money.
Still much?
Ooh.
Yeah, it actually sounds hard.
But yeah, man, Well Waves is like picking at it here. I think they can still hear me, right? Over the beat. Yeah, so Well Waves is picking away at it here. Let's give a quick shout out to waves.com one more time. Sponsors of this video, super sick sound library. You can go on there, download samples like the ones you just heard. Yeah, so Well Waves is picking away at it here. Let's give a quick shout out to waves.com one more time. If you download this sample, Waves, what's this one called? Do you know what it's called? So if you download Keep Calling by AP Go Crazy, flip it, hit up Anthoine, say I did a better flip than you. Let him know. You screen record this Twitch thing and got this sample, flip this sample, hit up Anthoine, send it to him, send it to Waves. But yeah, shout out waves.com. Shout out everybody for watching, and let's give it off to Anthoine for the final message. What do you got to say? Lastly, what do you got to say? Where can they find you? All that noise.
So Instagram is just at Anthoine Walters. If you guys want to send me some stuff, AnthoineWalters001@gmail.com. Thank you guys for watching, tuning in. If I was a real Twitcher, I'd be like, like, comment, subscribe, hit the like button down below, thumbs up, noti gang.
W's in the chat.
But I guess like Wade said, W's in the chat. Honestly, thank you guys. Again, I can't be here without you guys. The audience is literally what makes me. The collaborator is literally what makes me. So for those of you that I've never tapped in with, let's definitely tap in and get to work. So thank you guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That is it. This is Spill Your Sauce. Talk soon.